If you feel being happy, committed and passionate about your journey through life is important, you are absolutely in the right place. Welcome to the Two Guys Talking Heart on Careers Unplugged. I'm Stuart Hayes.
I'm Steve Ray, and today we're going to continue this journey on the heart.
We are.
And today we're going to talk about being true to your heart. And what does that mean, being true to your heart? We often hear it, don't we?
I've got to say, mate, this topic for me is one that, if I look back at my whole life, has been a really challenging, almost an area that I couldn't even get my head around. If I look back, for much of my life, I was navigated by doing things that would be well regarded by people. Yeah. So, you know, I'd choose to take career paths. I would choose to dress in certain ways to always be well regarded, to be a people pleaser, really.
Well, it's so common, really, when you think of it. I mean, all of society is driven in that way. I mean, just fashion, for example, we're all looking to see what other people are wearing because we want to fit in. It's that thing about fitting in many ways, isn't it?
It is about fitting in and being well received. And, you know, for me, like, I don't think I even had a reference point to know what being true to my heart was, you know. And maybe that's a good way to kick off. I don't know. But so if I asked the question to you, right? If I said, Steve, exactly what we're talking about today, what does it mean to be true to your heart, or how do you be true to your heart? You know, if someone asked that question, what would you say to them?
Such a good question, because I think we all know it. It's that classic thing, we do know this stuff, but when we use those words, we think, oh, am I being true to my heart? And we wonder about it. But everybody knows when we say the word values or principles, people get that. And they go, oh yeah, that's really important to have principles, to act from a place of principle. And I think our problem is that we connect with those principles, whatever they are, you know, big ones like, you know, trust and respect, equality, transparency, all those kind of things that we hear about. But then when it actually comes to doing them, there are these moments when we get conflicted, when we think, gee, if I really stick by what feels like the right thing to do, that might not go well because that person might not like me, or that might be a challenging conversation I've got to have, or that might not go well for me and my personal needs, whatever it is. And so we constantly step away from those principles, and I think in that process we step away from our heart. And so we're not true to our heart on a regular basis because our brain is so good at rationalising why it's okay to do that. But we kind of know, if we check in with that feeling about, is it a good thing to do, part of us knows you shouldn't be doing that.
No, it's, I mean, it's very challenging, you know. I mean, I guess there's some things that are the obvious values of society, you know, the things that you should or shouldn't do, you know, that you're either educated or taught about as a kid. Then there's the sort of more subtle, challenging, everyday living the values, you know, that actually, gee, you know, should I share this piece of information with someone, you know? Should I even tell them they've got food on their mouth? You know?
That's right.
But it's interesting. I mean, so here we are. For those of you watching at the moment, we've decided to jump away from the cafes because spring is here in Melbourne.
It's a little bit cold, we're in our jackets.
But in the middle of the exhibition gardens, the Carlton Gardens in Melbourne. Behind us is the first building that was ever listed as a heritage building in Australia, which is very funny because it was actually built because someone thought it was a good idea at some point to build a temporary exhibition buildings 100 odd years ago. So
is that right?
They didn't actually, this is actually all made of wood on the inside. It's the temporary exhibition buildings that you can see behind us.
Well, it's kind of true. It's just for how long your idea is temporary.
Everything's temporary.
It is, that's right. Yeah.
So was it a good idea to do that? If they'd followed their heart, I wonder what they would have done.
Yes.
But how do you do it?
Follow your heart. Yeah.
What does it mean? Like, what does that whole subject really mean? I mean, you just talked about values, right? And I was sharing about how, for me, I didn't really, for much of my life, I didn't really feel like I had a reference point on this topic. You know, I didn't, you know, as Rani, my wife, would say, you know, when we first started learning about the heart and learning about feeling, she goes, well, I'm not surprised, Stuart. You know, you couldn't feel anything. Yeah. But what does it mean?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of things there. I think one is, first we have to be aware that something feels right to do, something that's motivating us from that kind of inner compass. And this is the thing about the heart. It is a thing that can guide us and direct us in the right place, if we listen to it. But it's that thing about our heart is quite, as we were talking about last week, our heart is not necessarily very strong, because if we're following our thoughts and our ability to be very rational about things, then often we'll step away from our principles, because it's just like if you line it up on a piece of paper, the pros and cons of something, often it's like, oh, well, obviously don't do that. But yet, if you felt with your heart, if you could actually kind of connect with your heart, you'd say, actually, that feels like the right thing to do, and yet I'm doing this because the pros are longer than the cons on the piece of paper. And for me, that goes back to the fact that we're not skilled at being able to deal with difficult situations when our principles are challenged. Because what happens is when it's a difficult situation, and by that I mean it's either going to hurt someone's feelings, or you're going to get cross if you do a particular thing, you get angry at somebody, or for whatever reason, it's not going to go well for you financially, or potentially it's going to...
Well, but even when you say that, for me, I know my experience of that is that my very logical brain, it's the one that has that opinion. Right?
Yes.
That it might lead to someone being angry, or it might lead to someone being disappointed, or it may not be the best financially.
Yeah.
Okay? But one thing that the beautiful thing that's come, I guess, for me through my journey in life has been that I have had such Herculean failures at different times. And one great recognition I had about those is that every single failure that I ever had was once an exceptionally good idea.
That's right.
So,
exactly.
I guess I've been blessed with a reasonably smart brain in some degrees, and it gets it wrong, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
This navigation point, you said earlier, the heart is not very strong, but I think it's about loud either, It's actually... It's soft, it's gentle.
Yeah.
And this week I saw another posting on this topic by Oprah that had already got tens of millions of watches. It's a really little short video. I'm sure if you Google it, you'll find it. And basically it was where she was sharing about this, it's almost your duty to relax and stop and follow your heart, and to feel, because the heart speaks to you through feeling. That's your experience? I know that.
Absolutely.
You sort of helped me learn that. So.
That's right, and I think it's because it's subtle. We're having to tune in to a different part, or a different skill set, actually, because it's not been a part of our system, our being, our natural system that we've been using. We don't get taught it, not in a formal way. Through any part of the education system, no one ever says, oh, trust your feelings. In fact, a lot of the language is about don't trust your feelings. And this is the thing, there's so much misunderstanding about the heart, because often people regard it as a kind of a flaky thing. You've got to be careful about your heart. You don't want to open your heart because then you'll get hurt and these kind of things. Whereas actually what we know is if you open your heart, that is the place that anchors you more solidly than anything else. And when people say, oh, you might get hurt if you open your heart, they're not actually referring to the heart. They're referring to another part of us, which if we're kind of anxious, then we will get hurt. So we're actually opening up a part of us that's still fearful. Now we're being vulnerable in that moment, going, oh, I hope this goes all right. But hope isn't your heart. Your heart actually is something that takes you well beyond that, into a place of truth. So it's learning what the heart is about that's so important, and learning is not about going and reading heaps of books. It's like we were doing last time. It's simply connecting to it and using it. The real key to staying true to your heart is using it, is practicing it. And, you mightn't always get it right, but it's also letting go of what your idea is about how something's going to go. And that's the real trusting thing, where you think, actually, that feels good. Everything's telling me, actually, that maybe I should do this, but it feels better to do that. Wonder what would happen if I actually trusted that and went with that feeling. Now, if we start to do that and just then go with what happens in that, it might be very surprising, and sometimes it might be very challenging, But that is the journey of opening our heart, because along that journey, what happens is we come upon different situations which will help our heart to be stronger. We've got to use these situations to let go of old patterns and take the new path, which is about trusting more and relying on our heart and our feeling.
It's hard though, you know. I mean, I know
Yeah.
the experience for me has been that the more that I have backed the feeling and just done the thing, even if my mind was saying very strongly, you know, this is a dumb idea, you know, or this is not the best idea, or you know, you could get embarrassed by doing this, or you know, you will not be the happiest because of doing this. That actually, the more that I allowed myself, or I backed the feeling, whatever it was, if my heart was resonating towards something and I did that thing, what I found was over time, gradually, the feeling improved, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was easier for me to identify the feeling, whereas at the start, I was like, gee, I'm not
sure.
quite sure about
Yes,
this.
yeah.
You know? Is that what you sort of experienced as well?
Oh, absolutely. And at the beginning, you think, I don't know anything. I mean, I'm not even sure if this is the right thing to do, but this is where you have to take that leap of faith. Now, you're not going to do it over something huge. You don't say, should I buy this house or that house, or should I do this job or that job? It kind of feels like I might.
With, you know?
Start with little things. I mean, if you start with little things and it starts to feel, you feel more comfortable with that, then every time you're using your heart gets stronger. This is the thing. Like, we did that heart strengthening exercise last time, which is, of course, a great way to begin the process of going, what, can I feel something? What is that? Oh, that's a nice feeling. I'm going to just be with that. And then, of course, we allow our heart to open.
Yeah.
But on a day-to-day basis, we want to be using our heart all the time. In every moment, we want to be, you know, how does that feel to do that? You know, and that's not about letting go of our thinking mind. It's not about saying rejecting our brain at all. Our brain is just the most incredible, part of us. But when it's actually directed by the heart, the brain works much more efficiently. Because when the brain is not directed by our heart, it's so often influenced by our emotions, which is, of course, our bias. That is why we have a great idea and it turns out to go terribly wrong, because maybe we're just incredibly excited about this. We were caught up in all of the excitement. That actually narrowed our vision. The thing about our heart is it gives us a 360 degree or more, you know, it gives us kind of depth that we don't even understand. It's able to see things,
Or feel things.
which we can't with our limited mind. And so while it might feel like it's not logical, actually as we go along the way and then look back, God, that now makes sense. You know, that I'm glad I made that choice, but I wouldn't have known.
No.
Because of all the things that have happened since.
That whole concept of awareness is, and the limited perspective of the brain is actually quite extraordinary, you know. So, I mean, for me, you know, I grew up maths and science background, high school, economics at university, went off down a very logical, mind-based career path where, you know, I guess coming out of, in the early 90s, a lot of the bosses that I had early on were these alpha male 80s sort of dudes, you know, greed is good, lunches for wimps, you know, boys don't cry. This was
Soldier on, just get
This
on
was
with
the
it.
sort of garbage that was being peddled around the office. We won't tilt the camera, but just not far away, probably less than a kilometre from here, that the sort of things that were being perpetuated as the way that men are supposed to behave, you know. It's actually very funny now to be here with you, Steve, as a guy on a show, Two Guys Talk Heart. And, you know, for me, what I love about the show, aside from all the warmth and support that you guys out in the audience have been providing us, is just to sit here and to have conversations from my heart with another guy, you know. It's actually, you know, for a long time, this was considered to be the domain of women.
And women are so good at this, actually, because they do trust their feelings so much more.
They do.
I'm talking generalisations, obviously, but
yeah.
they are very good at processing a lot of things because they are much more comfortable at talking, whereas guys tend to hold stuff in. And unless you talk about things, then in a sense, what happens is you're not giving an opportunity for your heart to let go of stuff that's not going to be good for it, and that's the key role in just being a human and being able to talk about things. So, I mean, we men are catching up in many ways to what women have kind of known intuitively for a long time. So.
But it's funny you say that, because that the concept of talking, right? So if you look at people from a sort of psychometric profiling, there are people that actually generate and develop their creative thoughts in the engagement of sharing, of talking, right? And there are others that would rather go off into their cave and think about things and then come out and interact, right? But interestingly, with the heart, what I've found is that, for me at least, that it is actually, it's that I'm feeling it as I'm speaking it.
Yes.
So, and maybe that's something that maybe could be good to talk about that, because I don't know if you're the same as a person. What's your experience?
Well, say some more about it.
Well, even as I'm talking about this topic now, it feels like sharing from the heart is part of the feeling.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But that's not to not validate some people who might want to go and maybe they're more introverted, I guess, as people.
Yeah. And there's many ways you can share, because sometimes, you do walk past a person who might be just sitting on a park bench, right? They're sitting on a park bench and they're just really in the moment. They're very present. They're really engaged with just the art of being. And, as human beings, we actually do the being part quite badly.
Yeah, because we're...
But what you say is true. The thing about the heart is it's there to be shared, and our hearts naturally want to share. So there's lots of ways that we can do that, and obviously we've got a voice, most of us, and to be able to share in that way is really important. But in any way that you can engage with another human being and share from the heart is going to be amazingly helpful.
It is. I mean, my experience with it is that it's sort of, it's like streaming a movie. So it's like this, right? Facebook Live. So you don't know what's going to happen next. You can't get it and rewind it. You can watch it later. But if you're streaming a movie, you're getting the download as it's happening.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really so beautifully liberating. When we talked about communicating from the heart 2 episodes ago, and it's that sort of not actually really knowing exactly what's going to come out, but it just feels like it's correct, and the words they find their way out.
Yeah, well, that's right. And if you've got a general framework about what you're going to talk about, often it's amazing what can come out, because there's stuff that's located within us that we don't even know about. So if we script things too strongly from that point of view, we can limit in the moment what might be kind of more appropriate for the audience. And you're much more tuned into what the audience is wanting or needing, whether it's an audience of one or more. So I think what you're saying is absolutely right. We've got to trust that more. We tend not to, again, because we're not connected to our heart. So our experience is, when we're not connected to our heart, then the words don't come. Therefore, what do? I use a strategy which is called scripting, and I'll write it down so I'll get it right. But if we did more from the heart, we go, wow, that works.
So let's talk about that, right? So, Oprah in the video this week, what she was saying is, that what you need to do is you've got to stop, right? And you've got to relax completely and feel. Okay, so... for sure, that is a strategy that for me is very similar to what I would also suggest. And particularly early on for me, where my heart was a little mouse, just whispering softly. And my very dominant mind was very loud. I had to really, really stop and relax. And looking back, I don't think I even really knew what stop and relax meant. At all, actually.
No, and look, this is a really good point. Our idea of relax is, if you could draw and locate the level at which we're relaxed. Say it's here, and the most relaxed we've ever been is here. But underneath this part is all the past history of us as a human, which is our fight and flight reflex, our history, which has brought us to this point. So you can imagine that part within us is fighting so strongly not to get us to relax. Because if we relax anymore, it could be disastrous. So actually, when we relax, often we get a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
And this is the thing about meditation. People often say, "Oh, I can't do meditation. I tried to do it, but when I started relaxing, it was a disaster." My thoughts were going off, and I'm making shopping lists. And this was my mum actually. She talked about this, and I thought, "But that's actually part of the process," because we are now at a point where we've dropped down so low that all of the triggers within our being are saying, now just be careful here, because if you relax
it's
anymore...
It's that guarding, isn't it?
It's the guarding.
Yeah.
It's what might happen. What could be around behind that tree or come out from that house or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's what our mind is telling us. Sometimes it tells us directly, or in other ways it's quite indirect. It might just suddenly be telling us, oh, you really need to get on and do X, Y, and Z. So it tries to pull us back into the patterns and the habits that we're used to, which is the doing part. So it is a process. Oprah's spot on. You have to stop, and you have to make time for it, and you have to practice it. It's like anything. If you try meditation once, or stopping and just relaxing, it's not even meditation, right? It's just stopping and relaxing and say, I'm just going to sit here and relax. If you try that once and you get agitated, you think, oh, I can't do that. Well, you haven't actually... It's like going to the gym and saying, oh, I tried to lift 200 kilograms, I couldn't do it.
But it's funny you say this, so I think I shared this previously on the show that back in the late 90s when I was working in Asia, I purchased a book called Instant Calm. Right? And I couldn't even read it.
Wow.
Seriously, right?
Wow. Yeah.
I bought it because I recognised that I needed to stop and I needed to slow down, and I needed to find some way of accessing something else. I didn't even have the vocabulary to really understand what that was, and it was important, but I couldn't even read the book. Every time I go to read it, what I wanted to be able to do something.
Yes.
In the not doing something.
Yes.
Right? That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
It was not... The not doing something itself was very challenging as a concept. Right?
Yeah. There's a classic story actually that's told by a guy, Ed Rubenstein, who's been practicing this for a long, long time, and he had done years and years of meditation and various practices and so on. And in the moment that he was brought into a room to do this new practice of using your heart instead, he said it was one of the most infuriating things. There was a person on the other side of the room, a woman who had never done anything. And they were just saying, just relax and go with that gentle feeling. So, he did the whole thing. He touched his heart and tried to go, but he had all this doing in there about all the things that you need to do. You need to be relaxed. Okay, so be relaxed. So he's telling himself to be relaxed. Meanwhile, on the other side of this room, this woman was just being it. She was just dropping into it because she had nothing there, no script telling her, you need to do this, right? And that is the classic thing that is there in the background. We don't even realise how much we are being told to do something. It's the classic human condition. You don't get something for nothing. So this opening the heart thing is so counterintuitive, and it takes time to let go, to realise that in that letting go, in that relaxing that we keep talking about, is the key, because it's then, as we let go, that our heart will be opened. It's not us opening our heart. It's us letting go of all of the doing that's stopping our heart from naturally opening, like that.
So it is natural,
sunshine coming out like that last time,
But it is, and I guess for me that sort of the continuation or the extension of what Oprah talks about really is to get into is in the feeling, And last week you shared that little exercise around how to help people strengthen their heart, right? Which is something that if you haven't, in fact, Steve, why don't you just do it again?
Yeah, okay.
I was going to say to everyone, go and watch last week's episode, but...
Well, it's so simple too. I mean, if you turn it into a practice, we get into the doing again.
Little heart strengthening.
Little heart strengthening. It's good to have both your feet flat on the ground, because then you're kind of connecting your physical body to the earth. And being outside is actually quite good.
Beautiful.
It's amazing if you're outside.
Great, actually.
So that's the first thing to do, and to be upright. when you're upright, you just you're showing that physically that you're kind of alert to what's going on. You know, kind of being lazy, and you're here. You're here and now. And closing the eyes is helpful too because it reduces all the distraction. And then just allowing yourself to feel your body, both your legs, both your arms, and you'll start to feel any tension that you're holding. Often we hold it, you know, around our shoulders or our neck. And just take a couple of breaths and let go of that tension. And you'll start to feel it, just very gently start to melt away, just that action. If we then put our hand in the center of our chest, which is, you know, where that feeling center is, that helps shift our attention away from our mind into the feeling center, which just helps us again to drop even more into that relaxed place. And as long as we're giving ourselves permission that this is what we want to do, we don't have to worry about whatever's coming into our mind now, like all of the to-do lists or agendas or whatever. Just be in the moment, feeling your heart, feel your body, feel yourself relaxing and dropping away. And if you're wondering, oh, what is the feeling? What does it feel like? Then it's one of those things that often arises through a smile. You know, think of all the times you've ever smiled. A feeling was the first thing that began that smile. So right now, if we just think of a beautiful moment, you know, some moment we might have been walking on a beach or, you know, I don't know, holding a baby on a holiday somewhere, whatever. Think of that moment
Just doing
again.
this, actually.
What's that?
Just doing this.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? And just, yeah, we're here on a park bench. Just relax.
It's beautiful.
And as soon as you feel that nice feeling, that is the feeling that has come because we've remembered that moment where we were feeling great. Then you can let go of the thought and just be in the feeling. And then all we do there is just allow that feeling to grow stronger. The smile is actually a real key, because when we smile, it's like it connects back to our heart, back to that feeling, and it kind of strengthens our heart even more. So if you're just smiling and relaxing, you know, like smiling to the memory, if you like, of that time, but letting go of the memory. And even without thinking, just smiling to your heart to help it become even stronger. That's all we need to do. And just allow that feeling to grow more and more beautiful. Whatever it is you're feeling, whatever nice feeling, the gentleness, relaxed feeling, calmness. You might be feeling some happiness, some joyfulness connected to that time. But here's the thing, that is all in us. We're not having that experience anymore, right? We're here now, just sitting here, but we are now in that feeling. And that is the real secret of this, to realize that, if we just come back, that actually that feeling is always there. It's always there within us, and every experience we've had where we felt incredible joy or connection, that was something happening out there just to remind us that we've got that feeling in there. So let's stop.
So
let's reconnect with that feeling.
Let's do something with this, right?
Yeah.
So this is actually the thing we shared last week. We had a network newsreader that's a good friend of ours was going through a troubled period, and she was wanting some help, and so Rani actually was teaching her about the heart a little bit, and what blew her away was actually that she'd gone and learned about meditation and gone and done this with you know, lots of famous people, sort of stuff in the room, newsreaders, professional sports people, etc., about performance-based meditation. Right? So you would meditate, go into a place, get nice, calm and peaceful, then come out and go back with your day, right? Yeah. Whereas this is not meditation. This is actually allowing your heart to strengthen and the feeling to spread all the way through you, and then you just live with that feeling.
Yes.
Right? So you've just got something up, just popped up, just blown onto your head there. There you go, it's gone.
It's part of being outside.
I felt to tell you that.
Glad it wasn't a bird.
And this is an example, right? An example of following, being true to your heart. We talked about at the start of the episode. What is that?
Yeah.
And we talked about how, in some respects, it's something that you do all the time, right? You sort of navigate with this feeling. So let's do it, right?
Yeah.
What would it feel like if we stopped this episode right now?
Oh, it feels fine.
What I felt was my feeling around my heart was sort of like it closed in a bit. Right. But what does it feel like if we continue talking about this topic?
Yeah, that feels good. So, as you're saying that.
It's sort of, my heart feel was like a bit more expansive, right?
Yeah.
What would it feel like if this was the very last episode of Two Guys Talk Heart ever?
Yeah, that doesn't feel so good.
Doesn't feel so good, right?
No.
What does it feel like if we keep having these conversations and seeing where they go and just putting them out there into existence for anyone who's watching, even if there's only one of you?
That's right. It feels good.
So it feels expansive, right? So this is sort of, in part, the way that, for me, when you hear about these famous people talking about the heart and being quiet and being relaxed so you can listen, actually, it's a feeling that's going to happen. It's not a little mousy voice, even as I mentioned earlier. It's sort of like it's like an inner knowing for me, right?
Yes.
It's like it's a gnawing suggestion, sort of.
Yeah.
That you don't even know if that's the message, or is that part of your mind, just putting something in there, because it's sort of, to some degree, my mind will interpret the feeling and put a vocabulary to it,
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly
you're
right,
thinking, wow, is that it? Gee whiz, which is why, what Steve was sharing earlier, the heart strengthening, really, really important. Because by stopping and relaxing is actually just stopping more. Because you're just stopping busyness in a muscle, or busyness in muscular tension, or the to-do list writer, which for me is a classic. It's the conversation drafter, the next thing thinker. That's always happening somewhere. Those thoughts still and diminish, the feeling expands at the same time, so I'm able to feel what is happening as it's happening. So as I go to do something, I'm getting an experience of my heart expanding or not.
That's
as
wonderful.
It's happening,
That's wonderful, and that is, in a sense, you're allowing yourself to be not in a kind of, oh, is that my heart? Is that? But just in a kind of, oh, wow, I'm noticing my heart. That's good. I'm going to go with that.
Right.
So you want to do that. You want to feel that feeling of, and sometimes people get, I often say, wow, I saw this, beautiful view, and my heart just really opened. I'll talk about that. And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to connect with those beautiful moments when our heart is opening. That's what we want. Our heart, the more that our heart is open, the more that we are connecting, not just to our heart, but to other hearts everywhere. And this kind of greater field of, compassion and love that exists out there, and which we don't understand, but it's very beautiful. We don't understand
it, but this science of this is irrefutable these days, So, and we talked about this a little bit on the topic of communication a couple of episodes ago, but that right now we could set up an electrocardiogram just over there and measure the field around our heart. So right now we're in each other's fields, and all these people that come past us as well. Now, the second thing is that you can measure is a difference in the field, a heightened vibration and a smoother sine wave in the field when we're joyful versus when we're angry or we're experiencing negative emotions. Now, so you think about that, and that sort of that dirty electricity versus clean electricity sort of concept.
And look, isn't it funny that we need to go to this thing? Like,
Exactly.
Is there the machine that goes being measuring this stuff? Because if it's not there, then it can't be real, kind of thing. And yet,
But there is
we
for
know,
some people, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing. You know, we experience this when we have moments when there are difficult things that are not being said, like the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Everyone can feel what's happening in that moment, but no one talks about it. They just go, "Whoa," because they all think it's a personal thing. They don't know that it's actually shared by everyone in that room in that moment. Right. And if someone says, I kind of feel like we need to talk about the blah-de-blah, then it's like, oh, right. Yes, let's talk about the blah-de-blah. You know, it's out there and something can be done about it. Otherwise, it feeds on itself and it becomes this kind of thing getting in the way. And so I think it's about tuning in. You know, once we start tuning in, we'll start speaking about it and it becomes more normal.
And that's, you know, we talked about at the start of this episode. So, you know, how do you be true to your heart, right? This is such a vast topic. I mean, it's not just, well, how do you follow your heart? You know, that's part of it, following that feeling. Yeah. But equally, another part is actually the tuning in the first place. Yeah. To know that the information's coming. Like if you are in a situation, I mean, you know, in a group, and that group dynamic where there is a blue elephant in the room and no one's talking about it, part of following your heart is acknowledging that you feel it and you're going to say, you know what, I think we need to talk about this.
Exactly. And I think this is the big thing. This is the practical following of the heart where you're saying, I can feel something. It feels like I need to say something, even though it might be difficult to say that, and even though it may not be heard well by people, and even though there might be conflict as a result of it, I'm going to trust my heart as the right thing to do here. And then when we start to do that, and that becomes more of our kind of habit, then what happens is people work through conflicts instead of them hiding and being kind of water cooler conversations which turn into gossip. I mean, there's so much negativity that happens in the workplace because people don't follow their heart.
That's right.
They feel it,
they do,
but they don't then speak about it.
That's right. Because they want to behave just like I used to.
The people pleaser?
Be a people pleaser.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's funny, like, I mean, you know, there's the people pleasing perspective is you know, for me, I guess it's a desire to be well regarded, to be well received, to do things well, you know, to therefore to be seen as being successful or whatever, right? So, and that desire, that's still there, okay? So, it's just that I've turned down the impact that it has, you know, massively. You know, it used to be that I was probably unknowingly oriented by that in every single moment, continuously, always, right? Whereas these days, I'm aware of what its voice, all the different ways its voice pipes up. Yes. Probably not all of them. I bet there's more that I don't know about. But I allow my heart, because my heart has become much stronger, to help me see that that's just a perspective, right? And to not follow that desire or that attachment.
And that's great. I mean, I think this is why strengthening the heart is so important, because otherwise you'll miss that. You could potentially miss that and go, no, that's just a perspective. And it's about trying to get the gifts of these different voices within us and say, like, even when that angry self comes up, you go, there's something pretty, you know, not okay that's happened here. No wonder there's some anger associated with that. But we're not going to act with anger. We're going to act from our heart, and we are going to take action. That's a way, in a sense, of listening to that part of us that would act in a way that's actually destructive, in a sense. So we've just got to tune in.
Yes. Yeah. It's.
But you're right. It's a huge topic. We've just begun it, and there's so much to it.
Yeah. Look, it's. I guess it goes in so many directions. Where's it going to go next, Steve?
Don't know. We'll have to see. What's the next episode?
I don't know. It sort of feels like we should wrap this one up.
Yeah, it's been great. Yeah.
And it's been great being outside. It's funny because I'm right now. I guess I've got a whole lot of things that would be good to talk about, but it does feel like this episode is coming to a conclusion. And for those of you watching at home, we've got a couple of. It's the school holidays here, and we've got a couple of great production assistants here that have been operating the camera and at the same time managing to run around, and they've found possums in this park. They've had balls flying around. You might have even seen them in the background from time to time, I don't know. In any case, I'm Stuart Hayes with Steve Ray, and we are Two Guys Talking Heart. Two Guys Talk Heart on Facebook. We're not going to stop it just yet. We're just going to talk a little bit about how you could interact with us if that's something you'd like to do. We would love you to. So please share this episode. Make sure you jump onto Facebook Live or follow on Facebook. Two Guys Talk Heart is the handle. Otherwise, Bridging Heart and Mind. Like the page. That way you'll be able to keep in contact with us. Ask the questions. What are the things that you would like us to talk about on this show? And when you think about it, there really is no limit about the types of topics, the areas of life through which you can do things
Connected to everything
in one way, or you can do things in a heart-based way. And really, I'm really fascinated to see where this show goes, Steve. We've already had some great feedback and comments from people. This is only the third episode. And I just really don't know where it's going to go, but I love that. Actually.
Maybe we could go to the Commonwealth Parliament and see what would happen there. Wouldn't it be amazing? There's some interesting places where the heart could be used a lot more, and people could trust their heart more. But we've got a way to go in some areas of our society. But
we do.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, if you want to reach out and send us your messages, please do so, and share the episodes. If you think this is an important topic to talk about, then make sure you like the page and share the episodes. It's one way that you can let us know that we're doing a good job, or doing our small part, I guess, of this jigsaw.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. In any case, thanks for spending some time with us, and we look forward to seeing you again real soon. Thank you.
Thank you.